Welcome to the weightlifting scoop.
Yeah, bitch.
That was Mike Szela.
Mad Money Mike.
That's Sean Rigsby, and we have Glenn Pendlay in the house.
I am here.
Yeah. So we finally got Glenn on the show again. How you feel being back in South Carolina, back in the good old South, Glenn?
I feel great now that we are on the weightlifting scoop.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been too long. You know, it feels like I did a show, what was it, last week, the beginning of last week, and then it feels like it's taken a year to do another one. So I'm anxious.
Yeah. What's up, Mike? How's your training going? You haven't been on the show in a while.
Yeah, training's going awesome. Been too busy having awesome training sessions.
He has been. He's had a couple of good ones lately.
Mike
had a
is
couple
very
of great
humble,
ones.
if you guys don't know.
I hadn't noticed.
He refuses to brag about himself.
Absolutely, it's totally inappropriate to talk about my great training sessions I've been having.
Mike's the most humble, cocky person that I know. Like he's big.
How does that work?
He's big in his mind. Like, yeah, I'm going to destroy training, but he doesn't. You don't talk about it. He just lets his lifting do the talking. That's it. And when it happens, he'll let you know about it, but only after it happens.
How is that different from saying you're the dumbest smart person?
Because humble. I mean, those are positive attributes. You can be cocky. You need to be cocky to just at least a little bit.
Yeah. You maybe have a point there.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe you have a point.
I don't know about cocky, but you need to be sure of yourself. I don't know.
Confidence.
Yeah, confident, not
Confidence is good.
Conceit. Confidence, not conceit.
That's
But
catchy.
I guess you can be cocky without being conceited. But
True. Yeah, I see a lot of lifters, run into trouble when they let, I guess you say cockiness go too far, and it overwhelms them. So, being self-confident to the extreme is a good thing. But when it runs over into, basic cockiness, and you tend to not let your lifting do the talking, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that can be a bad thing.
Confidence benefits your performance, but it can get to a point where if your confidence or overconfidence kind of pulls you away from what you've been doing that makes you successful to begin with, that's where it can start to take away from the performance.
I think one of the main things is you have to be confident that you can be the best. You have to know that you have the capability of being the best. But once you fail to recognize, because there is always somebody out there that's better than you, when you fail to recognize that fact, you're not striving for more anymore. Anyways, yeah, I mean, that was kind of not planned, that discussion, but I like that. That was good.
Yeah, good start.
So we got the Arnold coming up. We're excited for that. We're hitting that taper. You guys ready?
I think Mike is.
I'm ready.
Mike's going to destroy. He's going to destroy
ready.
Arnold.
I'm ready to do something good.
Yeah, Mike wears less and less clothes in training when he feels like he's kicking ass. So lately, he's been training.
You don't want to go too far with that.
He's been training in his underwear. I don't even know if he's been wearing socks.
He told me today he's going to lift barefoot.
And so pretty much Mike's ready to go, I think.
Yeah. Well, when you can train in your underwear, you're self-confident, if nothing else.
I think so. I think that's a safe assumption.
I guess one thing we're going to talk about
If
is
Travis ever walks in and starts training in his underwear, there's going to be something wrong for sure. Travis is not the kind of guy to do that, or the kind of person to pull that off successfully.
Whoa, this is taking a turn.
I don't know.
Real quick.
I didn't mean it in a bad way. It's just, he tends to be a conservative dresser. Put it that way.
It's rare to see unclothed leg out of Travis. You notice that?
It is rare.
Even like you've been doing shorts and the tights and compression shorts, maybe just a little bit more. But like when you're not lifting in sweatpants, it's really rare. It is.
Well, I am actually going to wear the compression shorts again today. They're pretty comfortable, and they feel more like a singlet, so it's good leading up to a meet to wear them.
I usually only see calf out of Travis at meets. That's about it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to highlight the calves because that's where it's at, right?
That's what Tom says.
When you walk on the platform, you want to make sure everyone's looking at your calves.
Definitely.
Yep. So there's the Arnold, and then there's the hassle-free meet a week after. And I guess that's kind of an interesting situation where we used to have primary qualifiers in which all the lifters would have to go to one specific meet in order to qualify for an international team. And then the past couple years, what's happened is they've had multiple meets that you can qualify at, which sounds good in theory, but kind of what can happen is there's another meet a week after the one that we're going to be competing at that people have a chance to see what we do and then beat it. Is that fair?
Well, I don't think it's unfair necessarily, but I think it's a crappy situation. It takes away the meaning of a primary qualifier, which, as you alluded to, we don't have those anymore. But I think that there's a lot of value in having a primary qualifier.
And the one thing about it is I think it's awesome to have everyone compete against each other. And I guess one of the arguments was, hey, you know, it costs a lot of money for these lifters in California to travel to the East Coast to compete.
Well, it costs a lot of money for lifters from the East Coast to travel to California to
exactly.
compete. You know?
Yeah, so that's why they were interested in having multiple qualifiers, so I get that. But what the situation that you can have happen is in some weight classes, you can have people make the team without ever head-to-head beating someone. Because
That's
they know what total they need to take.
That's a bad problem. Yeah.
And instead of having to open smart, they can just open for the weight they need to make the team. Yeah. Which, I mean, this is all hypothetical. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying it could. So it's an interesting situation.
Yeah, that definitely takes away something from the competition because I fully believe that you should have to beat someone head-to-head to get a spot, you know, because that's difficult to do.
That's true.
Especially for a lot of people. You know, some lifters just definitely have some other lifter's number. You know, they just have their number. Yep. They beat them again and again, and that person is not going to win head-to-head.
And there's geographical advantages. I mean, if it's cold somewhere, it's warm another place. There's elevation in some places. So if they have if someone lives in Colorado and they have a meet in Colorado, they're used to the elevation. I mean, I don't really think that makes that big of a deal for one day, but, you know, just throwing.
Well, it might make a big deal for supers. They don't like the altitude.
But, you know, if it's very, very hot at one location and a super goes there, they may not do well. But maybe a lighter guy would do better in the heat. So it's basically like you take all the outside factors and only put the numbers on the table. Whereas, you know, in certain situations, you can lift more weight. You know, given a different atmosphere, a different environment, whether that be weather, the amount of people in the crowd, whatever. But I want to see people at nationals competing against each other. I think one thing that's happened in the past couple of years is they took away that primary qualifier, and people forego nationals or forego certain qualifiers that I think if you really want to draw a crowd and excitement to weightlifting, you should see every single competitor at the top of their game competing against each other for a spot.
Yeah, and a great place to have that happen would be nationals, you know.
Mm-hmm. And it's always been somewhat of a, you know, if the Pan Am team was traveling the week after, people would forego nationals. That has happened in the past before the past couple of years. But at least some people would have to go to nationals. You would at least have to go to the primary to get drug tested. So if you're going to pay all that travel money, you're going to compete. I mean, why not?
I think it adds a lot of excitement. Like you were saying, having all the top lifters, all the top competitors under the same roof on the same weekend, going head to head against each other. That adds a little something extra that you can't put on paper. and if you're there, you can definitely feel it.
Well, and different people react to that situation very differently. I mean, some lifters, you put them in head-to-head competition and get their competitors out on the same platform as they're on, and they really come alive during those times. It really adds something to their lifting. And certain other people don't react that well to that situation.
Well, I guess when I said fair, I was just trying to see what you guys thought. I don't necessarily think it's completely unfair. I just think from a perspective of the NGB, like if you want to grow the sport, you need to create competitions where the best people are competing against each other on a, semi-annual basis, at least the American Open Nationals, I don't know, whatever that competition you want to make it. I mean, somehow you have to incentivize the lifters to get there. And if you make nationals a primary qualifier for worlds and you force everyone to go there, they're going to go there. And that's how you create an exciting meet. And then make sure that meet is at an exciting venue, for God's sakes. Anyways.
Yeah. When you have everybody, when all the lifters are coming to nationals, for example, it really brings out the true sport aspect of weightlifting. When you have all these multiple events where some people are at one and other people are at another one, it's kind of like these isolated performances, and you don't get the full feeling, the full sport of the weightlifting competition that you would when everybody's all together going after it at the same exact time.
True.
Yeah,
True.
So maybe in the future we'll be able to have some meets where everyone competes against each other. For the most part, though, I'm excited to see this next year. Got a lot of juniors that I think have a chance to medal at Junior Worlds, especially. Internationally, I think these guys are, this junior team is going to be one of our better ones in, 10, 12 years. Might be able to get 3 guys on the podium, Daryl, and Ian Wilson. Hell, maybe someone else I'm forgetting. I don't really know all the juniors anymore, but then there's obviously a lot of girls that are pretty good. So, as far as talent goes, it's improving. I'm excited about that.
Awesome. And I agree with Ian Wilson. He's probably on the short list of people that could make the Olympic team, let alone Junior Worlds. He obviously has a bright future, and the next 2 or 3 years should be very telling for him.
Yeah. So, what have you guys been up to in training? Like, what are the things that you feel like are helping you guys the most in terms of
like what, like an exercise?
Exercise, something you've been doing on the side, mindset.
Pushing my squat. It's definitely been helping.
Okay, I think Sean's joking.
Yeah, I'm joking.
But recently I've had some good results from doing high block cleans. And then I was doing high block snatches as well. Then I started the way they felt. I kind of thought I'd be better going off the low blocks. So I did that on Monday, and it ended up paying off for me pretty much immediately. So high block clean, low block snatch, I think is going to be my recipe for success for a little while now.
Things that have been helping me a lot is just any block. I think high or low has been helping. It's been helping me really set up correctly and fix my pull and root out a lot of problems. So I've been really enjoying anything off the blocks, whether it's high, low, knee, doesn't matter.
Well, the way you're pulling, I don't think it really matters if you go from the high block or the low.
Yeah.
Because you're getting the bar up so far on your leg before you start to pull. It's basically a wash either way.
Yeah.
But you're right, it has been looking good, and because all of your lifts look good when you delay that readjustment.
Yeah. No, that's been forcing me to like drive through the legs more, get that readjustment. Moving the knees. That's what Don's been trying to get me to do is move the knees at the right time, and that's been helping. The lifts a lot.
What was your take on that yesterday? You have a range.
Yeah. So when I first came here, I was pretty inconsistent. in my line of pull. I mean,
Say that again.
yeah, exactly. I was just I just wanted to compete. I wanted to get better, so I would sacrifice a lot of things, cerebrally, approaching the lifts. I would just kind of just rip it, grip it and rip it. And so that resulted in a whole range
Problems
and a whole range of contact. The bar would contact me in a range of different areas, whether it was a snatch or a clean. I felt like every day, the clean's, hitting just above my knee, the clean's hitting me in the hip, a whole number of places. And now it's starting, I've closed the range down a little bit, narrowed it down, and things are a lot more
I can even see that, and I can't see too much these days, but I can see that you're hitting it closer to your hips more consistently. And that looks a lot better.
That's good. So aside from that, which has been helping technically, probably the thing that's helped me most in lifting is changing my mentality. Is that I'm a very intense kind of person or lifter, I guess. And instead of getting a little too worked up about things, I worry more about the things that I can change and not about the things I can't. So I kind of wake up and I think about that every day. I know this is a little too philosophical.
That transfers over well into life.
Yeah, no. So I wake up and I just work on the things you can change today, and I come into training and I kind of think that way, and it seems to be working. So,
I feel bad that I have been totally oblivious that Sean has been much more even keel at training. When he first got here, he would work himself into an absolute frenzy every single day.
Pretty
he
much.
would be so crazy. Like, the look in his eyes it was disturbing. I wouldn't want to look him in the eyes because I was afraid he
scare you?
I thought he might snap and come after me. So I would, kind of look down, like, whenever he'd walk by, and he would get himself so worked up, he would make a great lift. Or he would miss it and
get even
freak out and start throwing things.
Well, during periods of time when you're working on technique, stay even keel, but don't lose that fire. We need some intensity in this.
Oh no, I don't.
We got to get this party started.
I don't think he's in any danger of losing the fire.
No, I'm always at least a little pissed off. I'm just better at channeling.
I didn't say you had to be pissed off.
Well, I'm always pissed off. I'm pissed off right now. But
don't try to change the man.
Yeah, but I mean that's just how I am. I just am better about not exacerbating it and using it at the right time. And when we go heavy, I don't think about it. I just empty out that mind and I get pissed off and just do the things that I've been working on to get better. So
now, Glenn, let me ask you a question. So at the beginning of after I compete, and then for some reason, after a couple weeks coming back into training, my leg strength I find has just gone down a lot. And then when I kind of build back up, so this cycle is the lowest that my max back squat has been with me being able to snatch 150. Do you think that has any merit?
Well, I don't know what you mean by merit. Are you saying is that a good thing?
Well, basically, my legs are the weakest they've been being able to snatch 150.
I think that's a good thing because you're obviously, I can see it in several of the workouts that I've been able to see you do. You're using your legs just fine during the lift. And if you can get your knee into the bar and use the leg correctly, you should be able to snatch anything.
Yeah, well, the reason why I ask this is because I personally think there's some benefits to having your squat strength go up and down. Because during those times when your leg strength is weak, it forces you to be more technical.
To be technically correct,
se.
yeah.
It forces you to be more technical to make the same weights as before. So being able to snatch 150 with less leg strength, in theory, when I get my leg strength back up to what it is capable of or what it's been in the past, I would think I'd be ready for some bigger weights. That's how I think of it anyways. I don't know. That seems to have held true for me in the past.
I somewhat agree with that.
And it's not necessarily something that I've consciously tried to do. I'm not like, hey, I want my legs to get weaker for 2 months. It's just, you know, when you get back from a meet and you kind of like, I don't know, occasionally I'll get on like a bike or take more walks, or, you know.
Are you feeling all right?
Occasionally I'll do stuff like that after a meet just because.
I'm not talking about walking a marathon or anything like that, right?
I mean, seriously, for whatever reason it is, you know, you do more traveling, you have vacation, you have Christmas break, whatever it may be, you know, just more traveling in general. Those things have just happened over time. And when my leg strength goes down and I'm able to build my snatch up to previous levels and then get my leg strength back up, I've hit PRs. And I just wondered if there was any thoughts on that, on creating a training program around that, maybe.
I don't think you know you're going to find anything concrete on that, because that obviously that presupposes the fact that your squats are going down considerably, and there's obviously a weakness in that, because you have to lose the strength in your legs for that to happen. And I think most people are not in your position, whereas most people, they need every bit of leg strength they can get, and they're trying hard to build their legs stronger. You're in a unique situation in that your legs are pretty damn strong, and you can afford to have your leg strength go down a little bit, because you don't depend on that leg strength that much, especially for the snatch. But having said that, the fact is you don't depend on your leg strength near as much as most people for snatching. I think you're entirely right that you shouldn't need, you know, a 250 for 5 back squat to snatch well. And it's entirely normal that you should be able to get away without that type of leg strength and still snatch well.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it seemed to be that when my leg strength goes down but my snatch stays steady, then when I get my leg strength back up is when I hit PRs. But I would say for somebody like Mike over here, he's very efficient. He had a 131 snatch when his back squat was only 187. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Without running the numbers, all I know is that that's a high percentage. And,
that's safe to say.
But, I mean, now Mike has a 201 back squat. So, obviously, Mike is a little held back by his ultimate strength levels. You know, his positions are great. The main thing that he's working on is building strength, so I don't really think that kind of thing with him would be beneficial at all. I think it'd be detrimental, actually. But given that my leg strength is a huge strength of mine, it's very easy for me to build up my squat quickly, but I can also lose it quickly. So for me, over time, kind of coincidentally, that's happened and it's worked for me. And
you're kind of a different animal because you're built to squat. You know, there's no two ways about it. When God constructed you, He had one thing in mind, and that's big squats. You know? I mean, you know, we could say that it would have been better if He would have had big snatches in mind or big clean and jerks in mind, but ultimately, you are built to squat, and that's always going to be your strongest lift, and the lift where your strength gets utilized most efficiently. And I think it's probably a good thing to back off of that from time to time, because it forces you to utilize your strength inefficiently, you know?
Yeah. So Mike was snatching at one time over 70% of his back squat, which is, I mean, most people are around 60 to 65.
So Mike's a freak is basically what you're saying.
I mean, 70%.
At one time I was.
At one time you were.
Downgraded to normal human, so.
So now, I mean, given that Mike's back squat has gone up, he's still in the upper range. He's still over 65%. So, I mean, I think that's still extremely high. So point being, I mean, for him, there's nothing that would be beneficial for that, but for someone who has extremely, maybe, the technique, because you're so strong, you fail to be as technical when you're very strong. Sometimes you have to take a step back from the strength and fix your technique for a little bit.
I think it's very easy for people that are just very good pullers or very good squatters or whatever to let like a strong position in the pull override everything else, because they're very strong, say from the knees up, from the knees to the hips, or from the hips up, or whatever, that you utilize that strength to such a degree that it overrides your strength in an earlier position in the pull. And that's gonna have, bad ramifications no matter who you are.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's something that we try to work on with pulling from different box heights. And that's one of the main arguments for pulling from low blocks, medium blocks, high blocks, whatever, because it it does do a good job of building strength where you're weak.
Mm-hmm. And it also, it worked. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Actually, Sean was on the show, and you weren't, so talking about tempo. So people who have a tendency to pull fast off the floor, slow it down a lot, and then try to pull fast after the knee. So pull it fast to the knee, slow down for a second, and then try to speed up again. Doing block work really helps because the tempo is forced to be correct, because you have to build from 0 meters per second or 0 acceleration to full acceleration into the hips very, very quickly. So tempo, it's almost forced to be correct.
I think that's something that beginner lifters and less experienced lifters probably don't do enough of, because that's so important during the lift. If you don't have the tempo right, you're not gonna make improvements in your efficiency or your technique or however you want to say it. It's just gonna continue to get worse if the tempo's not right.
Yeah,
and
as a basically self-coached lifter who went into learning this decently strong, I would just tear it off the floor. I've always thought, like, you should move as fast as you can. But the problem, and you should, but the problem is if you don't move in good positions, or if you move fast and slow down like I was doing, you're going to have a lot of problems.
As fast as you can without sacrificing
the
proper position.
Exactly.
And
I was just
tempo.
like, I'm strong. This weight is not heavy.
Yeah.
Move it fast.
The position and the technique is the, limiter for the speed of your pull.
Yes, yeah. So being stronger in those positions.
And now I know, Glenn, you're a more pure coach. So being that you were in the weight room with your lifters, and most of the time you stuck pretty close to the lifts with, like Caleb Ward and those lifters that came out of that era. So they were going from the floor. But when you were working with them on tempo, you were there.
Yeah.
So you were able to tell them and have them be aware of their tempo instead of just someone who's training in their garage. On the other hand, maybe they might need to do more block work to force themselves to have that correct tempo because they don't have someone.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
I think especially for lifters that are not around a coach every day or every training session, I think block work is probably more important than it is for somebody that's just doing lifts from the floor all the time, because it forces you to be correct in ways that you would be incorrect if you're just pulling from the floor on a daily basis.
So kind of in the same way that power snatches can create bad positional habits, full snatches without correct tempo can cause tempo bad habits, but if you go from the blocks, you can fix that if tempo's your issue.
Yeah.
And I like personally, I like the high hang snatch for that too. So if you don't have access to blocks, you can do this stuff from the high hang. And when me and Glenn do seminars, we really say, if you're somebody who has a hard time bringing the bar into the hips every time, you can go from like right above the knee, and you can pull as fast as you can and get that bar to the hips almost every single time, no problem. Even if from the floor you're bumping at the kneecap.
It's a good thing to work on. A good thing to work on in order to solve problems in your pull. Yeah, definitely.
Well, what do you guys, one thing that I was working on is, that we talked about last episode actually, was leading up to the meet. I'm trying something new because I'm pretty fatigued from building my leg strength up. So what I'm trying to do is concentrate on 6 lifts And those 6 lifts, obviously 3 in the snatch, 3 in the clean and jerk, kind of like a meet. But Monday, those lifts are 120, 125, and 130, 150, 155, and 160 in the clean and jerk. So obviously a lot lighter than weights that I'm going to be lifting in the competition. But trying to prime my mind to focus on 6 lifts that matter and making most of those lifts. So leading up to a competition, how do you feel about this kind of training?
I think it's great. I think it solves the problem of going after weights again and again and again and again, which I think has always been a thing that you've run up against, Travis, because you're famous for having 12 misses and then finally making it. To be really able to discipline your mind to just go after a weight 3 times and then shut it down for the day, I think is a very good thing. It focuses you more. It focuses you more to where if you don't make it this lift, you're shutting it down.
Of course, just put emphasis on a particular part of the workout that really matters. Trying to prime your brain to really get to that moment on the platform when you're at your 3rd attempt. You've already gone 2 for 3, and you're pulling hard on something that's challenging for that day. Maybe you don't know for sure if you're going to make that lift, but you should have a pretty good idea.
And here's Tom Stroka.
So, you want to build up to something for that day that there is some uncertainty about making that lift and that you have to get your mind there.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to train your thought process. I definitely could see that doing that having some value and helping you improve. And like before, when I was training on my own, when I was able to attempt a heavy weight like 6, 8, 9, 10 times and then finally make it, I thought, wow, I'm really making progress. I was able to pull that weight 10 times and still make it eventually. Now that I've been training at Muscle Driver for going on 2 years now I see, doing more what Travis said, I kind of see the progress that I've made in that.
The real kickers, can you make it the first time or the second time? That's what really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I definitely think, hey, don't get me wrong, I think, now, as far as how I feel about having a bunch of misses and making, I think that shows a huge amount of grit, and I think that's extremely important, but not necessarily, the week before the meet.
Right. There's a time for that. Right now is not that time.
You don't have a meet for like 4 months, you're in extremely good shape, and you're pulling on a PR. By all means, pull on that friggin' thing until you make it. But you're a week out from a meet. You're really supposed to be tapering to a certain extent. I think you need to focus on success more. It just depends on how your mind's working at the time. If you really feel like if you don't make your opener that you're in training like a week out, that you're gonna bomb out, then make your opener.
Don't bomb out. Yeah.
Then make your opener. So you might miss a couple times, but it just depends on how your brain's working at that time. And this is just kind of how I've been approaching this meet. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And I don't know if I'm in the greatest shape I've ever been in, but I know that I've been having more makes, and my diet's definitely spot on because I've been working with the nutritionist. So I think that it'll be easier to make weight. And
how has that nutritionist been working out for you?
It's been working good. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to see if he can get on the podcast because he has some interesting views on nutrition, which, when I was growing up, I was always into low carb. And when I was a wrestler, I got, really lean doing that. And he definitely programs me to have a fair amount of carbs, especially on 2-a-day training. So on Sundays when we don't train, I have no carbs. So every day's different, and it's based around my training volume, my training intensity. And I don't know, it's definitely working. I've lost about 2 kilos of body fat already. We're taking it slow. there's no hurry because, I mean, I just really want to change my body composition. I'm not doing it to lose a ton of weight, overall. I'm really looking to just like optimize body composition. So
good stuff.
Tom is in the building. He just told me I look sexy. So I mean, I've made it in life.
Well, that's always positive. That's always positive.
So I wrote an article for Catalyst Athletics about surrounding yourself with people who will help you meet certain goals. So like peer pressure, and how when you spend time with certain people, you're gonna become more like them. So
that's why I got away from Tom.
But I think that's definitely true. I mean, over time, there's been tons of articles on how you become more like or the average of the 5 people you hang out with most. And if you have certain goals in weightlifting, you need to surround yourself with people who have traits for you to meet those goals, traits that you're weak in. So you kind of control your own destiny. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, I think that's true, and it's probably something that most people don't think about enough, because when you see a group of 5 people, you tend to notice that they tend to be somewhat similar if they're all weightlifters, especially. But the people that have the worst traits or the biggest weaknesses, the other people in the group tend to have those same weaknesses. Whether it's not being as strong on their diet or not being mentally strong in training or something. If you surround yourself with those types of people, you're going to end up with the same problems.
Well, I mean, even emotions are contagious. They've done tons of psychological studies. I mean, like yawning's contagious. If you smile, it's likely that you're going to put a smile on somebody else's face. So emotions in general, happiness, sadness, people who complain a lot. Like if you surround yourself with people who are extremely happy.
So stop your bitching, Sean.
What? What have I been bitching about?
Oh.
I've been pretty good.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot better.
Doing so well, I didn't even notice.
But in weightlifting, your problem might not be. But I guess my hypothesis per se was not necessarily if you want to be a good weightlifter, you have to surround yourself with people who snatch and clean and jerk more than you. While that may help, maybe what your weakness is emotional stability for the snatch and clean and jerk.
Yeah.
Maybe your weakness is diet. Maybe your weakness is motivation. So you need to surround yourself with people who motivate you if your problem is motivation. Not necessarily people who snatch and clean and jerk more than you, because they might have the same weakness as you.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean, Tom?
So while that helps, so
no fighting, Sean.
Training with people who have better technique than you is going to make your technique better. So
yeah. Training with people that pull slowly off the floor. Sean, talking to you.
I pull slow off the floor. Is that
No, that
wasn't
my point.
Watch only weightlifting videos that are in slow motion.
Okay, so
And
I'll
that'll
slow the
improve
pull
your
off the
tempo.
floor and be more like them.
Yeah.
Is that
Yep.
okay?
only in slow motion till the knee.
I don't like to watch videos of a variety of weightlifters. I like to watch only a few who I think do it similarly to the way that I'm trying to do it. I don't like to watch people who do it differently than I'm trying to do it. I feel like subconsciously that's going to mess me up somehow.
It could,
Yeah, it could. I don't think you're going to run into a lot of people that pull exactly like you because you're so short.
Yeah.
But who knows? If you find a couple of them, probably be good people to watch.
They're definitely.
I only hang around with short people, so I look tall.
Glenn's just trying to take a shot at him, but there's definitely 62s at the international stage and 69s that are the same height as Mike. But I agree, and with the internet these days, you can follow lifters that are similar height, similar body weight as you. I mean, there's tons of weightlifters that post videos. So you can easily find someone with a similar body type to you and get that motivation, learn their pool. If they're better than you and they're strong in certain things, if they're a better snatcher than you, watch their snatch videos, Try to figure out what they're doing, what the differences are between your pool and theirs.
All good hints.
Well, anyways, we got to get to training. We got a training session here in about 10 minutes, so we're going to be wrapping up. Any last-minute things you guys want to talk about?
Not really. I think we had a fairly good program. I don't have anything else to say.
I approve.
You approve? Well, that's
Mike approves of this podcast, so we are done here.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, guys. Mike and Sean and Glenn. It was obviously good to have you back. It's only the second time you've been on in a while, so hopefully we'll be having more shows with you.
Hopefully so.
All right. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later.